This episode of the Community Workbench podcast is sponsored by yours truly, Matt Norn, Remax Bell Park. For all of your real estate needs, call me 860-428-6534. Your dreams are my job. Welcome to the Community Workbench. This is Matt Norn and Kyle Morrissey. We are your hosts of the number one podcast in my basement. At the bench, we try to repair the sense of community. So every week, we bring you small businesses, entrepreneurs, community leaders, charities, and pretty much whoever we feel like talking to. And today, we feel like talking to Michelle Patton. I told you I'd misspeak before you. Hi, Michelle.
Hi guys.
Hello.
And also, Jack will be here a little later.
Yes. Yep.
So he'll be here around 6:45 ish. So when someone else appears on there, don't be surprised. So you're a personal health coach, correct?
Yes.
What's your background in personal, like, health coach? Like,
It actually starts long ago.
whoa, we're here for a long time and a good time. So,
So truly, honestly, so my mom, funny story, was an aerobics instructor in the 80s. So I actually did grow up in the aerobics room.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. So that I think kind of instilled my just love for fitness, and and again, this was the 80s, so it was like the boom of the fitness happening. Leotards, leg warmers,
Yep.
all that good stuff.
Big hair and leotards.
Yeah. um, so yeah, like I spent a lot of time in the gym setting. I was used to that and exposed to that. And then I went through my teenage years and kind of got away from fitness and everything. And then for me, like really the big catalyst is when I was 20, when I turned 20, I was diagnosed with bone cancer. So
Oh, wow.
that was like a huge kind of eye-opening, life-changing event. Well, for anybody it would be. And my focus really became not even so much like fitness, but really just saving my life and being healthy.
Yeah.
So I just adapted really the healthiest lifestyle I could. I got really hyper focused on my food and nutrition, everything that I was taking in. I started taking yoga classes with my mom actually, and I started going to meditation. Um, and I really found that for me, it was the only way to cope at the time with what I was going through. Um, so that's when I really started kind of a whole life transition. Like, even though I was exposed to fitness and everything growing up, like
Mhm.
everybody else, like anything your parents does is like, okay, that's great, but that's what your parents do,
Right,
you
right,
know?
right.
So yeah, it wasn't really like what I was going to do, or, when I was like that rebellious teenager. But then it really, for me, just became a means to cope and survive,
Mhm.
and kind of process everything. And then the benefits of doing that are kind of undeniable.
Yeah.
When you start
Right.
taking care of yourself, when you start eating better, when you start exercising, um, versus whatever other coping skills we grow up doing or habits that we have just that are instilled in us. Um, so I've just prolonged that and continued that, and ultimately have turned it into really kind of everything that
Yeah.
I do.
So when you're not uh like training for a show specifically, what's your like average day type of like food? Like, is it like a high protein? Um is there a balance? Do you have to have a balance? Do you have to eat vegetables? Is that is that like
That depends on who you talk to. There's it depends on
I
who
was
you
wondering
talk
what
to.
you do.
Yeah. It depends on who you talk to. So I'm a big advocate for vegetables, produce, micronutrients. So when you're getting micronutrients in that come from produce, you're getting what I call like the brain fuel. Like, a lot of people like to feed their muscles. They like to fuel their energy. So we take in our protein to build our muscles. We eat our carbs to give us energy. I like to remind everybody, or myself and my family and my kids, eat your vegetables to fuel your brain, right? So not even just your brain, but even just the pigments in vegetables give us the color in our skin. Like sometimes you'll see people and they look like death, like very pale. And sometimes you can even just tell like that person doesn't have a lot of produce in their diet. But it's what gives us that sharpness, that cognitive function that we need. So I personally believe that vegetables are crucial to have in our diet, but depending on what kind of diet you subscribe to, some people don't. But I do. So I typically try to have a balance, and it depends on whatever I'm doing at the time. So if like I'm competing, I'll have certain macros. If I'm not competing, I still have specific macros. It's just dependent on whatever the goal is. So whatever specific weight or muscle mass I'm trying to have, whatever it is, I just calculate whatever the macros are for that specific goal, and then within that, I like to have a balance between for my vegetables, and my protein and my carbs. So it's always some sort of a balance or a ratio.
Yeah.
It just depends on whatever your goal is.
Gotcha. And speaking of competing, you're wearing a medal.
Yeah.
You have two medals here that were pretty big and clunky. How'd you win these?
So these are from this past weekend. So I just competed for the WMBF professional bodybuilding competition in White Plains, New York. It was the Hercules. So this was actually my pro debut. Um, so I won my pro card last November for the WMBF.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we competed this last weekend. So this is good timing to be on, but I didn't know what way it was going to go. It's like, I might be talking about how I'm going to be prepping for the next. Well, either way, I'm going to be prepping for the next one.
Right.
But yeah, so fortunately, yeah, we came out of this one not easily at all, but just kind of scraped by with a win for. I competed as in the Open Pro Bikini and Open Pro Bikini Masters. I took second in.
So the gold one is a first place one.
Yeah, this is
And-
first place Open Pro Bikini, and then this is Masters. So still celebrate the over 40 wins.
There you go.
Cool.
I wouldn't have thought you were
So-
over 40.
I'm over 40. Yeah.
I mean, me
over
too,
40.
but
Yeah.
We know you're over 40. In fact, your birthday's tomorrow.
Hey,
Oh, happy
I'm telling
birthday.
people. Anyway.
Yeah.
So now you're a pro. Does that mean you have like sponsors and you get paid to do this?
So yeah, so I have some sponsors. So
Okay.
definitely I'm always open to other sponsorship,
Yeah.
of course. So as it's still expensive. It's an expensive hobby even as a pro.
Okay.
But the longer you're in it, like I'm a newbie. I'm really a bodybuilding amateur, really.
Okay.
I mean,
Hmm.
I've done strength training my whole life. I've been a competitive athlete my whole life, but it's always primarily been endurance sports. So mountain bike racing, adventure racing. I did a lot of adventure racing in my early 20s, and we were a sponsored team. We were Team Vegan. So on the heels of my treatment, when I finished my treatment when I was 20, and then I started racing, and from my diet and all of that back then, I had taken on a vegan diet, just in an effort to I guess be healthier. But in hindsight, really, I wasn't. Like I was getting stress fractures and stuff like that. a
Aren't they
lot.
usually the gray and ashy ones, the vegans?
Yeah. Well, if they
yeah.
have I guess you would call it like a standard American vegan diet where it's like, you're not really eating whole foods, but you're eating a lot of processed vegan
Yeah.
foods, then yeah, probably.
I will say I am like whatever the opposite of a vegan.
Well, now I am. Yeah,
Like
that's
90,
the irony.
95%
Yeah.
animal products.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So, yeah. Um,
That's all right. So
That happens
you're
a lot. Ask Jack.
you're
Yeah, he
mountain
gets there.
biking, and
Was I in the middle of a story?
I don't
Was it a sale? We went
know.
back to mountain biking.
Well, so you're because
Oh,
we
so
were talking about you were
racing.
being a pro
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
the sports you played in before, and this was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the newer thing.
Yeah,
you're
yeah. So
doing.
primarily, I was always an endurance athlete, and took pride in that because it's like, okay, like this is my skill. You know, it takes a lot of effort and skill, and
Right.
you got to do a lot of training, and then you got to show up and you got to compete on race day, and it's taxing, and you come to near death, and you're like, why am I doing this? And you cry, and
Is it like, do you feel unhealthy when you are like cutting that much? Does it like feel like, I don't know what it's like to really cut that much? Do you get like
No,
shaky and
so
stuff?
I don't like not
Oh,
not for a bodybuilding competition. I feel unhealthy like in an adventure race or something when it's like you're hours in and days in, or you have days left, and you're like, why am I doing this? And you're dying,
oh,
and then
okay.
you finish, and you're like, okay, awesome. But for prep, because my diet is so healthy, I I honestly, I just feel so good. You
Okay.
know, like a lot of people are like, "Oh, like you're
Because
so
it's packed with
restricted. How do you do
nutrients
that?"
and everything.
Yes, yes.
You're
And it's
just going down on the calories a little bit, but you're still packed with nutrients.
yeah, and you end up with I typically find you end up with more volume of food. So you feel fuller when you're spacing out your meals with in those smaller increments throughout the day. It keeps you more balanced. So
Okay.
a lot of people don't even understand um, like the Snickers hangry commercials are a real thing, you know.
Yeah.
So when you go for an extended period of time without eating, it really does affect your mood, or it can, So, and I always overlook that because you think, it's like, oh, sometimes we don't even notice how many hours it's been, since we eat. So, um, I feel it keeps me more balanced throughout the day. Sometimes a lot of it's in your head.
Okay. I'll buy that for sure.
Yeah, a lot of it's in our heads. And it's the same thing even in yoga. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, yoga's so hard. I can't do it," and it's really not. Like it's physically it's not. It's like some of the athletes that I work with or train with, they'll say the same thing, and I'm like, well, physically, I know you're more than capable of doing it, but it's really just like, it's our mindset and it's what we're telling ourselves. So even me during the day, and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, like I only have this much food for the day, like I'm so hungry, and then, but then if you're eating every 2.5 hours and you're balancing it out, it's I don't know, those thoughts just kind of go away,
Yeah, you get into a
versus
routine basically
yeah, like I know my food is gonna be there,
and try to
right?
stay
Like
busy in between meals.
yeah, like
So,
I know it's gonna be. I know in 45 minutes, I'm gonna get my meal. So, feeding
are
time
you,
is coming.
do you
It's
allow
like a
your
trough right here. It's like a feeding trough. You should fill it with snacks.
Oh, there we go.
so are you like, do you limit your water intake, or do you get like unlimited water? Is that like
I mean, you could probably call it's almost unlimited water. It's more than, you would never need to drink more than what you're allocated, allocated? What I can't say.
Allocate.
Allocated in the beginning, but then in every coach is different. But usually getting down towards the competition, there's like some sort of restriction at some point, and every show is different. Like this show for me was a lot different than my previous shows because I was in a different position going in, and then on top of that, um, it wasn't even. It was like, was it even 24 hours? Like just prior to the show, I ended up coming down with a stomach bug.
right? You were saying that.
Yeah, so then I was like super dehydrated right before the show. And so I even showed up to the competition a little bit like with like less water, a little bit more dehydrated than normal. And the show promoter was like, "You are good where you are. Like, don't cut
Yeah.
anymore," And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then we went to the hotel room, and then I was like, I don't feel good. And then
Oh.
so there was like, there was no retaining any water at that point.
You think
Like I did not have a
do
choice.
you think that helped the win?
No, actually, what's funny is it like, well, no, it didn't help the win. So that's what is at least we're like, okay, at least like, at least we still won with that. But I came out much leaner. So for like bikini, it would have been nicer for me to have like a little bit more fat, a little bit more fluid in my system.
Oh,
So
really? I thought definition was like a big thing with.
well, it is, but you don't. There's so there's bikini, and then there's bodybuilding. So
Okay.
women's bodybuilding is, I mean, they are much leaner. They're much more defined, like much more muscle.
Okay.
Yeah. So in bikini, you still want to have like some curve and softness, and like I woke up at 2 in the morning before the competition, and I was like, first of all, I was like, I'm not even going on stage. Like
Oh, at first,
looking like
right,
this, like
'cause-
I was so dehydrated. And what happens is your muscles flatten out. So even though like the muscle is there, everything kind of leaves the muscle when you're
Oh, wow.
dehydrated.
Yeah.
So the physical appearance where like, you might have like a nice like pump in your muscle, it just like I don't know if you ever when you go to the gym and you work out and you look in the mirror like, whoa, I look swole.
No, I've never
like
done
immediately.
that. I've never said that about my body.
So if you want to start like squatting right now, we'll take like 10 minutes from now, like you'll see it's like nice, like they fill up kind of immediately, it's like kind of get that pump. So yeah, so especially being dehydrated like that, I mean, it happens quick, like literally to the
Mm.
point where I woke up in the morning and I was like, there's no way I'm stepping on stage. So it was like a full on like recon, like, okay, like, I had spent like basically 24 hours in bed just trying to rest, like my whole self-care plan before the show went out the window. Everything
Oh,
went out the
man.
window. It was like I have to just do literally nothing but rest, and then just try to hydrate. I was trying to take in more carbs, because that the muscles just soak that up and fill the muscles back up. But then
Yeah.
when you're sick too, it's like, okay, I'm like trying to
Ugh.
eat to like salvage any chance of stepping on stage, but at the same time like not being able to eat.
Right.
So
Do you use anything like liquid IV? Any of those hydration
I never
supplements?
have.
Never have.
No, I
Oh,
I never have, but I have thought of it like usually like in the morning,
yeah.
like like
When you feel depleted.
yeah, usually not from even from like working out, but like yeah, just like I know in like Key West they have a lot of those like
Mm.
IV bars,
Oh, well,
for morning after, but no,
yeah.
I've never done any sort of
That's an actual
liquid
IV
IV.
though. That's
Yeah.
like they're sticking your arm.
Oh,
The
you
stuff,
just mean like an
the
electrolyte, like
yeah,
a
right.
yeah,
The supplements there.
yeah.
So I use those quite a bit, especially when I was working in the sun the last 2 days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I do use electrolytes. And I actually my favorite electrolyte is coconut water. It's a natural electrolyte.
Oh, I did hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you like coconut water,
Super
some people
sweet
don't like
though.
it.
Sometimes it's tough to.
Yeah, you can cut
coconut
it.
water.
You can cut it with water.
That's true.
Yeah.
Could do that.
And they used to make a chocolate one, and I haven't seen that. I know it sounds disgusting. I know.
Chocolate
I
coconut?
totally get it.
Mounds bar.
Yeah.
I'm down. I like a Mounds bar. So on top of being a professional weightlifter and whatnot, you also do classes,
Yeah.
and you have this beautifully typed up thing. So why don't you go through like your Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday thing on there as to like how that all works? Is there like do you go meet people at a gym? Is there a specific gym that you're at and or do you have your like own gym? How does that work?
Yeah, so this is my summer schedule. So I work out of Block 134 in Putnam, Connecticut. So right above the stomping ground is the block.
Oh, really? There's a gym up there. I didn't know that.
Well, it's not a gym; it's a community space. So Carly Sage is the owner there. She facilitates the space up there, and then there's some other local businesses up there. But she has a community space room, so you can rent that space. So I have like a little office retail spot, and then I use the other space to teach group classes out of.
Oh, okay.
So some of my classes are up there, and then some of my group classes are held outdoors. So I'm right along the river trail in Putnam, so it's really cool. You take clients up and down the trail. There's a lot of different things to do. So,
So
like
is it mostly body weight calisthenics? That kind of thing?
it depends.
Or
It
you have
depends on the
weights up
class.
there? Do you bring weights to the class? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I have some weights and equipment upstairs, and then in the space, and then for the boot camps as well. It depends on the day and what the class is, but there might be some weights, but um, sometimes it's like primarily body weight, which is mostly how I built my fitness
Yeah.
like over the years. Like my
Right.
bar class is typically primarily body weight. We use like a few light weights in it, but super, super effective.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah. So my classes, so the summer schedule, we have Tuesday, Thursday mornings, a 7:45 boot camp express, and that's held outdoors unless there's inclement weather, and then we move indoors for that. And again, that's like along the river trail or river path outside. So really nice. There's like just cool features to use. Like my whole thing is you don't need to have an expensive gym membership. You don't need to have equipment. You really don't need anything.
Right.
I mean, I usually just say you just need a mat, and you really don't even need a mat. So, yeah. So I have the boot camp on Tuesday, Thursdays. There's a power walk after that. I do a 9 a.m. gentle morning yoga, which is really good for beginners too.
Mhm.
I talk to a lot of people that want to get into yoga, and they're either just not comfortable being in a group setting, like nobody wants to be like the new person in the room that doesn't know what they're doing, which is totally not the yoga mindset at all, because
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
pretty
very welcoming
yeah,
community. And
inclusive. Even like going online, like there's so many like free videos and whatnot. And it's very like it seems like all the yogis of the world want everybody to have it, enjoy it.
yeah,
It's like
yeah. Well,
it's like the thing I get from it.
yeah, and the benefits of it go far beyond the physical
Right.
aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like again, like when I was diagnosed with cancer in my 20s, one of the first things I started doing was going to yoga classes and taking like going to meditation, because it was the way that I found that I could kind of just exist in the present moment,
Mhm.
and not one of the things I say in classes is when we exist in the past, we exist in depression. When we exist in the future, we exist in anxiety. So the way to find peace is just to exist in the present moment.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
you alleviate stress. I'm sure. I feel like it does. Like stretching, working out, that type of stuff. Always
Yeah.
just like it kind of makes you focus on that and nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, so when I teach group classes, a lot of people say things like, oh, that went by so fast, or, they feel so refreshed, or like,
Yeah.
renewed after a class. And a lot of that is, like a lot of people say, like, oh, like yoga's like magic. And it kind of does have that effect, but it's really the physiological effects of it. So just moving the body flushes fluid in and out of the joints, and just like you said, when you're taking that time and you're focused on your movements and these other things, it kind of takes you away from the
From
things that are
everything else. Yeah.
like kind of always usually there, like your to-do list, like your normal stressors, so it's
Yeah.
almost like a little vacation, or the term that I like to use now is altered experience, because a lot of people I see on Facebook all the time, people are always posting like, okay, like how do I alleviate my anxiety or my stress, or like how do I take myself away, without relying on alcohol or, whatever other substance. Like, how do I alter my experience? And I was like, that's exactly what happens when you go into like a fitness class, especially a good fitness class where it's got a good environment where you can walk in and you can just set aside, all of the things that have been on your mind, and you're focusing on your body, you're focusing on your breath. So it's bringing you into the present moment. It's bringing you away from the things that you've been stressed about. it's keeping you from thinking about the things in the future that we have no control over, and just allows you to exist. So when you come out of it, you're like, oh, I just got a mental break, and
Right.
you don't even realize that happened, but
Yeah.
all you know is, oh, I feel better.
And I find like if you really challenge yourself in it, you'll like everything else seems easier. You know what I mean? Like life seems easier because you already did the hard workout of the day. Like
Yeah.
I always felt like that. Like
Yeah. That's,
makes you like a little bit more balanced when dealing with the stressors and stuff like that. You know
yeah.
what I
And
mean?
that's exactly how I feel when I do, like an endurance event or even like a competition like this. Like, you're out there and it's so hard and it's so challenging and you're like, why am I doing this? And then, it does it makes the other things in life just seem easier, and then you also know, you're like, okay, well, I survived that, I can survive this.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
how I always feel like, oh, this will be, you know what I mean? Like so I have to talk to clients a lot, and there's a lot of other realtors that I talk to that are like, they don't want to make a phone call because it's a stressful phone call. But like to me, when I'm working out, avid, like in a good routine, like the phone calls just don't bother me. Like I'm like, all right, it's a tough call, but we're gonna make it because it's not anywhere near as hard as what I put myself through this morning.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And it probably gives you that break too, where like if you're not taking that break and going working out now, you've just been like thinking about that phone call the whole time up until when you go to do it, and
Right.
then
Yeah. Exactly.
making it
That's
worse
like.
again. Like, we're like our own worst enemy,
Mm,
like you're working it up in your head to be
yeah.
something that it's probably even not,
And more than half the time, the person on the other end's delightful
it
and
yes.
fine with it.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. I do that same thing where I'm like, I'm like, I totally work it up to be something, and it's not. I'm like, oh, okay, that was
yeah.
silly.
And their whole perception was totally different than what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I get that. So the would you end on Friday? Did you have Friday?
Yeah, no, we're like still on Tuesday. There's
Oh,
so many. There's
sorry.
so many options. So lots of working out
Well,
this,
you're doing
this
Tuesday,
summer.
Thursday.
Yeah,
They're very
yeah,
similar days. It
yeah. The
sounds.
Tuesday Thursday classes are typically primarily they're the same classes. So yeah, so there's a 9 a.m. Gentle yoga. There's a 10:15 core restore. So really really good, like deep core. And that's really for anybody. So that kind of gives you that nice foundational strength, works on the spine, right? So especially if you have, low back pain, trying to avoid, future back surgeries, things like that, definitely something that you want to do. And then there is Booty Bar, Tuesday and Thursday nights. And again, that's like a really, really good total body workout, hits all those spots that kind of get missed in even yoga. Like, there's no one exercise modality that is the
Good.
end all be all,
Right.
So I'm a huge component of cross training. I definitely recommend that, to everyone.
What exactly
Um,
does it mean, booty bar? You like? Do we get to drink?
So yeah, yeah, because we are technically above the bar. So bar class is traditionally kind of ballet inspired.
Oh, so
And
it's
I
a
do have a
bar mounted.
history of dance and ballet, but I'm kind of like the Will Ferrell of ballerinas. So my bar is more like a strength training and like, the bodybuilder bar. So really fun, upbeat. The class is, it's total body. So we're just cycling through different body parts, but really a focus on the booty, the glutes, and like the inner thighs and outer thighs, which really get missed in, again, a lot of other workouts, like a lot of lateral movements. So really it's good for anybody,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you really do see benefits in your glutes. So that's why I use the term booty bar, because especially my female clients, like to get that gain from it. So, but again, it's actually a really, really good workout. It really focuses a lot on the foundational strength that really everybody needs.
Nice.
Like
Yeah.
I'll say a lot to people, like, because I've done CrossFit, I've done a lot of extreme, um,
Workouts.
workouts and other things, and I love it all, but I've definitely over the years have seen the benefits of kind of pulling back, adding in a lot of recovery. I'm I definitely always recommend, sometimes I even say like it's almost 50-50. Like spend, an equal amount of time recovering that you're spending working out, because so many people, they just want to hammer, 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 and they just lose mobility, and then they get injured, and then they don't want to work out. But it's not even just for your muscles and your joints to recover, but it's also for your nervous system,
Right.
to like bring it back, like kind of.
Yeah, especially like the balance movements in yoga. That's very stimulating to your nervous system.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
works your nervous system really well.
Yeah, and to have that connection, with your body, you can't have that connection with your body when you are so overstimulated, or when your body is so inflamed or sore. You can't even connect with those little nuances, those messages that your body is sending you.
Mm.
So it's really super important to be able to pull back, scale back, and then it's almost like.
So when you say recover the same amount of time, so like you work out for an hour and then take a nap for an hour, or like, what do you mean by?
Um, More like spend like I. So it depends. I mean, everybody has a different day to day life. Like some people are really, really active, in their job. They're just constantly moving. Some people are just really sedentary. Just because that's what their life, um, brings them. If they work at a desk or whatever else it is. So depending on the level that you're exercising or working out, so that might be, spending time doing myofascial release. Yeah, so using like lacrosse balls to almost give yourself a massage, so that could be almost like a deep tissue massage or a Swedish massage, um, but doing it to yourself with the massage balls, there's a whole array of different tools like the foam rollers,
Yeah, yeah.
so you can use all that sort of stuff, getting an actual massage. A lot of
Hmm.
people don't spend the money for that, but again, that's where, if you do self myofascial release, it's the same effect. Um, there's the LED light therapy,
Yeah,
there's
yeah. Red light
the hot
therapy is big.
tubs.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
yeah.
there's so many different ways. I mean, you can even lay down on the floor and put your feet up on the wall in waterfall pose, and that allows the blood to cycle back through your body, and in 2 minutes you've sent fresh blood to all of your limbs and your organs and things like that. So,
Hmm.
but again, it's like most of us, we spend the day, um, working hard, and
Right.
just going. And so even if that's working at work, but that means sitting at a desk all day. So you get out of bed, you get up, you get ready, you go to work, you're sitting at a desk, you're compressing your spine, you're immobile, really. And then, you get up, you get in the car, you go to the store, you get your kids, you make your food, and you do this, and then you maybe sit down and like watch a show or something, and then you go to bed, and your feet have never been above your head,
Right.
so
Or
that,
you've never touched the ground. That's
or
what
you've
I'm
never
thinking.
touched the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're in shoes and whatnot, and
Mhm.
concrete in the car and at home or on the floor. You're not actually touching the earth, which is
Yeah.
a big thing too.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So, I mean, maybe you got your workout in, and maybe you did some movements and stuff like that, but again, there was no purposeful recovery in there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I would say, like, if you're going to work out an hour that day, then maybe when you're sitting and watching, a show later in the evening or something, just like grab a foam roller and like roll around on the floor and loosen up those muscles. And it is, I will tell you from my personal experience, it is like night and day. Like you wake up and you are like,
Wow. I think that's a really good tip. I'm glad I asked more about that detail, because recovery is so like you can work out and be sore for days. You know what I
hmm
mean? And I always thought like stretching before and after helped a lot. Like cuts recovery almost by half. Just warm like a good warm up, a stretch, and then do your workout, and then a good cool down and stretch out to be out. Like was a big thing to add to a workout.
yeah.
If
And
you're just like working out and then leaving, like that's like horrible.
Yeah, and that's what the norm is,
Right.
and there is like a trend, like there's definitely like people that, they're avid, you know, they work out regularly, they're athletes, like, and they know the benefits. They take the time to do that. But even I see a lot in my clients and even studios I've worked at previously. So I've worked at studios where they'll run these deals, and they want, they'll do challenges to get people to as many classes as possible, for a
Oh,
week. And I
like
kind of
no
bite my
recovery.
tongue because I'm like, why? Why are you doing, like, where is the recovery class in here?
Yeah.
And for one, from the standpoint of, a human and an athlete, I'm like, that is not good for any of these people.
Right. Right.
And then I'm like, it's not even good for your studio, because now you're just setting these people up to just get, like to over exercise and to get injured. And then guess what? Like the weeks following that, they're going to be burnt out. So I get it in terms of a marketing standpoint, genius. I get it. It's,
Right.
of course. Yeah, totally makes sense. But in terms of like, is it the best thing, for your clients?
Right.
No, it's not.
Yeah. If you can do more recovery, even just like while you watch TV, or, just kind of work it in somewhere,
Hmm.
on a yoga mat or whatever, or sitting on a couch doing a tennis ball or whatever
Yeah.
release.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And that's where like that is where I've managed to fit in um a decent percentage more fitness and recovery in
Mhm.
my life overall. Like I will be the first person to like stand there and do calf raises while I'm like waiting for water to boil, or like
Yeah.
stretch, like use my refrigerator to stretch, or I don't know how many people have laughed at me because I'm like standing in like a figure four, like talking to somebody in line having a conversation, like balancing on one
Yeah.
leg. So it's like taking that
Yeah.
time, really whenever you can find it. And that's where it's like body weight exercise or recovery is, like you can fit that in anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been a part of a couple of groups where like you're going to do 100 push-ups a day, even if it's one at a time,
Yeah.
throughout the day, or we start with 50 or whatever the number is. But like while you're brewing coffee, you can do 10 push-ups, that kind of
Uh-huh.
thing. And then throughout the day, I don't know if that was healthy, but it made me do more throughout the day for movement and exercise
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah.
So like, and I know that's like a challenge, and it's like we're gonna do this every day for
Yeah.
3 weeks or whatever,
Well,
or
that is, yeah. So same, like if it's in moderation, right? So it kind of goes back to the whole, overuse. Like the same thing with like, there's so many challenges where, the athlete in me, and, I'll be the first person, like, if there's a challenge thrown out there, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it, right? Like,
yeah,
but at the same time, I'm like, oh man, like, oh, it's happened to me before. Like Jack and I, we did a workout one day together, and we're in totally different boats because I mean, our shoulders are built very, very different, and so his like, oh, what did we do? Um, do we do push-ups? I don't remember. I'll have to ask him when we get here.
yeah,
But like going into it, when he said it, I was like, oh, stum, this is not going to be good for me. And like, sure enough, like my shoulders got so inflamed the next day, and he was totally fine.
mm,
But like, I knew, I was like, for me, this is overuse. Like, for me, this is like, I can't do that many push-ups. So that's where those challenges of like, the pull-up challenges, like the push-up
right.
challenges, like do 100 a day. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like, I don't know, at least come to me after, right? And we'll like
Right.
recover your shoulders. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but maybe train to do it, and then, like do enough recovery,
Right.
ice it if you need to, even
Yeah.
just icing stuff people like overlook, the benefits of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to ice my back earlier this
Yeah.
week, earlier or later last week. um, You also have a bunch of free community classes and events.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
So I'm gonna butcher this, but I'll read it if you want me to. So free community classes. You have May Booty Bar. Oh, you
So
spelled it
that was,
Barre
yeah, bars, Barre.
for the bar, like a railing.
Yeah,
I didn't know
Oh,
that.
it's, yeah, it's like
I think.
okay, is
Yeah,
bar like a railing of
because
the bar? Yeah.
I've as a carpenter I've
Yeah,
mounted them
yeah.
for people before, but
You've mounted the bar, yeah.
yeah, like on the wall.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna guess by the dogs barking.
Oh,
Jack's here.
yeah, is it about that time?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, he hit the doorbell. I can feel it on my phone's vibrating. So May Booty Bar, sponsor Carly Sage Block 134.
Yep.
That's where you are, right? That's
Yeah,
your
yep.
space.
Yep.
And all these are on your website.
Yeah, they're all on the website.
101.fit. Right. Okay. June Healing in Motion, a somatic movement journey. What's somatic?
Yeah.
What is that?
So somatics is
How you doing, Jack?
Hi.
We got a seat.
Walk
over
around,
over
have a
here.
seat right in there.
You can wear the things if you want.
Yeah, so that's a great class that well,
Jack, what's your last name?
Retray.
Jack Rattray. I'm saying that right. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the Community Workbench. Thanks for coming out. You were just working with a client? Is
Yeah.
that awesome?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Putting them through the paces.
nice. If you move that microphone a little closer to him so he can hear you. So we can hear him. Awesome. We were just going over the events, the free community class and events. And I don't know what somatic is. So what's somatic?
yeah, so this is a good follow-up for what we were talking about, healing and calming the nervous system. Um, so trauma, interestingly enough, is stored in the body. So somatic exercise is a way to release trauma in the body. So we spend a lot of time, like, talking about our past or going to therapy, and really it's a huge benefit of movement is releasing trauma in the body. So it's basically like series of movements, like really simple, like not even what you would expect, like kind of the opposite of like a big rigorous workout. Um, so that class is really just a very calming, really great to kind of bring the nervous system down, recovery class. Again, like I like to have, I like to work out, I like to go hard, but equally as important, is healing not just the body, but also the nervous system, and kind of bring yourself back down to kind of a grounded state.
And you would just do this, like people can just come and do this, even
Yeah.
if they've worked out or not that day? That kind of thing still
Absolutely.
works.
Yep, absolutely. So, and the free community classes, those are for literally anybody in the community, right? So it's really about making fitness available to everybody. Again, you don't need an expensive gym membership. You don't need to have equipment. And these are the benefits that you get from these classes, I personally feel should be available to everybody and the people who need it most, right? Especially, we all need it, but, it's a free resource, and not even just because it's a class that I give out for free, but it's, you know, you don't need to have equipment. You don't need to have a space. Like, once you start exposing yourself, you start learning, you start doing the exercises, you can take what you learn with you anywhere in life. So
Right.
it's really about, you know, their free community classes, but then it's what people can take from that and, take it home to their families, take it out into the community.
Yeah. So Sunday, June 29th at 4 p.m. is the Somatic Movement Journey, a free class that's sponsored by Ashley Baxter Movement Magic Arts. And the location is Movement Magic, 112 Main Street, Suite 15 in Putnam, Connecticut. Is there a landmark near that? What's that?
That is in the Montgomery Ward building.
Oh.
So it's right at the main intersection. If you go down around the back of the building, so
Yeah.
she has a studio in there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that one's June 29th. And again, you can look all these up on www.101.fit. July, you have a power yoga, Monday, July 21 at 6 p.m. Location Block 134 Main Street, Putnam, Connecticut. Sponsored by Brenda Chubbuck, real estate specialist from CR Premiers. So those are so when you get these classes sponsored, basically you can give them to the community for free.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah. So these are all local businesses that sponsored a class. Yeah.
Yeah. And August, you have Gentle Start morning and beginner yoga. Tuesday, August 5th at 9 a.m. Location Block 134 Main Street, Putnam, Connecticut. And the sponsor for that one is Dave Frost, Quiet Corner Carpentry. His number is 860-420-7958. And then down here you have some community events. September Women's Boutique Clothing Swap. Saturday, September 20th from 1 to 3 p.m.
Yep.
Location Movement Magic, 112 Main Street, Suite 15, Putnam, Connecticut. Sponsored by Warrior Ways, LLC, and Movement Magic. Seeking free community class sponsors for September, October, November, December. Oh, so this is like your goal to get one event
Oh yeah.
per
Yeah.
month
Yep.
sponsored. That's awesome.
Yep.
That's really cool to be able to expose the community to all of this because, like, we're pretty unhealthy as Americans.
Well, that's what I find is it's really educating people on stuff, and again for me, um, my personal experience when I was sick, there was there was nothing else that could make me feel better. There was nothing else that anybody could say. They were giving me, medications left and right to save my life, but the only thing that made me feel like, okay, for that moment, like we
Right,
were
right,
talking about, like when you're in that moment when you're exercising and it takes everything else away. And of course, yeah, there's other things that we go to that do that. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's not always the healthiest means. It's either,
Right.
some sort of substance maybe, or food,
Comfort food.
comfort
It's like-
food, shopping, sometimes even like renovating the house. There's like chronic house renovators out there,
yeah, that's
and
not
it's
here.
like,
Chronic renovator avoider.
so this is a coping, it's a healthy coping skill. It's a coping mechanism that, most people aren't going to complain about the benefits that they're going to get, if they've, unless you are over exercising. I mean, that can, also be a bad coping mechanism if you're, doing it too much,
Right.
Yeah.
One of the great things too, I think about the free classes that she gives out, is that it gives people the opportunity to try something without really worrying about the expense of it or anything like that, and they could try different aspects of it. You know what I mean? They might like yoga, but they've never tried it. But this way, it's like kind of gives them an opportunity to just step in and do it.
Right. Yeah. That's a big deal. I really think so many people are like, I don't have the time, or I don't, have the, and then once you go in and you see how easy it is to do the baby steps into it, obviously you're not going to fold into a pretzel the first day.
Right.
Well, that's like
Process.
Jack's really, really good with beginner, people who have never worked out before.
I've been doing this
Ev-
for my whole life, so it's basically I could take just about anybody, and everybody is so different. So it's like where you're going to start from is a different place than where you're going to start from.
Right.
But if you always, a lot of new trainers, they try to go straight for the kill right off the bat. They learn all these funky exercises and stuff, these really advanced exercises, and they're like, just because they know them, that doesn't mean they should apply them. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially on the people that, I mean, of course they do if they're training somebody who's advanced. But beginners, you stick with the basics. You know what I mean? You learn the body, you learn what they're capable of,
Yeah.
you find out what their goals are, and then
Yeah.
kind of work towards it.
Yeah, we've had quite a few other either gym owners or fitness people in here before, and one of the biggest things that they always stress is like getting the form down
Yeah.
first before you add weight or
Nothing
add,
beats the basics.
yeah.
You know,
So that's
the
always
wheel's
a big
already
thing.
been invented.
Yeah, I'm glad
Getting
almost
it moving.
everybody that comes in here says something to that because that's like such a big deal. Like there's so many people that, well, me, I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Where do I put my hands? That kind of thing. But then there's other kind of like the ego driven, like you see this guy's been doing it, he's doing it just fine, so I'm going to do it too. But you know what I mean? Then
Yeah.
you're
Then
you're,
injuries.
you're just not ready. Yeah. So I think that's such a big deal to just be more well knowledged about it and understand that it's a journey.
Yeah.
And it's you know um, it's a
Taking it one
balance.
step
You're
at a
trying to
time.
achieve a balance so
Yeah.
that you're not super overweight or super underweight or always injured or that kind of thing. It's all
Well,
about
and
balance.
longevity.
Mm.
And again, for me, it was like my my fitness goals have always been more, it started really with like, for one, it was like rebelling against my parents. So it's like, my mom's a fitness instructor, like, nope. And then it was like, okay, well, I got to save my life. And then it was, seeing the benefits from that. And then, especially now, there's no spring chickens here, right? So it's like, it's all about, waking up in the morning, because I've been even recently. I mean, it was last year I was getting up every morning and I felt like I was hit by a bus every day. Like I would get out of bed and I was like, oh my gosh, like my whole body was inflamed. And it turned out I was, I just had some food sensitivities and I
Okay.
was having like a 12-ounce egg white like shake every morning and I had a sensitivity to egg whites.
Oh,
So,
really?
um,
God, I hope I don't
but
get that with that. I'm like 2 dozen eggs a week.
yeah, I was like trying to do a food elimination to determine what was wrong, and I eliminated like the wrong thing and added the wrong thing. So I found that out pretty quickly, but yeah, no, just like it, there's people just kind of settle into this idea that like, okay, oh, I'm getting old, and when I've done events where I'm out, I've had my ass kicked by like, 70-year-old women in,
Mm.
mountain bike races or adventure races, so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, there is no excuse.
My wife plays softball with an 83-year-old.
Yeah.
There you go.
Still doing it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So definitely like the choices that we make now, like the things that we do now to, prevent, to deter, definitely make a difference.
mm.
I also wanted to make a point that when you do start an exercise program and stuff like that, a lot of people think that, "Oh, I just don't have the discipline that it takes." Well, discipline is one of those things that you can build.
Mm.
All the discipline that you have and that you need isn't going to start from the very day one. It's a matter of just crossing that line and stepping forward and trying a little bit, and then next time it becomes a little easier and a little easier. I happen to grow up in a military family,
Mm.
so
Oh,
my
okay.
dad was a drill sergeant, literally.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up in a very disciplined type of childhood. But yeah, discipline is one of those things that kind of can bring you through.
Hmm.
Whether you feel like working out or not feel like working out, sometimes that's kind of what you need to kind of keep moving forward.
Yeah.
You know,
Keep going on your background. What's your like educational background? What have
um, I studied exercise physiology at UConn,
Oh, wow.
but I started boxing when I was 10
Wow.
and wrestling. Grew up in some terrible neighborhoods, needed to learn how to fight.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
did some wrestling, and being a military brat, we traveled like every 2.5 years to
Okay.
different spots. So it's like when I lived in New Jersey, I was doing mostly boxing. Then I moved up to Alaska. In Alaska, full contact karate stuff was like the big thing.
Yeah.
Then back to Colorado for boxing, and then I got into Muay Thai, um,
Hmm.
and then of course the UFC. Then I moved back to Connecticut to go to UConn,
Yeah.
and then of course UFC started kicking in, and I was like, I got to learn that jujitsu stuff.
Wow.
So it's like my whole life I've been kind of martial arts has kind of been in the background. But I
Yeah.
did my first bodybuilding show at 14,
Oh, wow.
and I competed till I was 36. So I placed in the top 6 in the USA
Wow.
5 times. So
Huh?
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, natural shows, all
Yeah.
natural shows. Yeah, never did steroids. Uh, my cousin does steroids, but it's one of those things. It's like you got to make that choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're either
If
in or you're out
you're either
in
in or out,
that life. Yeah.
and the leagues that I was in, if you get caught doing it, it's a 10-year ban. You
Wow.
know, so
Yeah.
Yeah, we get I had to take a polygraph. You have to take a polygraph before the shows.
Wow.
yeah, turned a lot of people pro. Myself, I was pro. I didn't turn pro till I was 27. Back in the day, it was much harder to turn pro. They had very few pro shows,
Yeah.
pro qualifying shows.
Yeah.
Now they offer quite a few more.
Wow.
But yeah,
Yeah.
way back in the day, like nationwide, they would give out like 10 pro cards.
Gotcha.
And now they probably give out a couple hundred.
Did you compete as a fighter?
Yeah,
Were you
a lot.
mixed martial arts?
Yeah, and then I also owned Muscle Max Gym. I don't know if you ever heard of that. It was in Danielson.
Maybe muscle max.
It was a huge gym. It was 20,000 square feet. I had a full size ring. I had a cage, professional built cage, 20,000 square feet. I had 10 heavy bags, 5 speed bags,
Hmm.
and 2,000 square feet of grappling mats. And that was just one room.
Wow.
Then I had a whole nother room that was all weight training and stuff like that. And then I had another room that's for spinning and aerobic classes and stuff like that. It was doing fantastic. Had it open for almost 5 years.
Wow.
And Planet Fitness opened up down the road,
Uh,
and
Yeah.
kind of took half my business overnight.
Oh,
Couldn't compete
wow.
with $10.
Yeah.
Half the people that would come, we were doing 30 classes a week,
Yeah.
and I taught a lot of those classes, the grappling, the Muay Thai, the MMA classes and stuff. But half of the people that would come would just go for the weightlifting and stuff.
Yeah.
And once Planet Fitness opened up,
Yeah.
I lost like half of those members. So
Wow.
And we're there every day.
yeah,
Now you remember. Couldn't beat him. Join him.
right. So that was, that was quite an experience. Quite an experience. I really wanted to open up that gym for the community as well, because when I was growing up, there was a lot of places where I lived where there was nothing for youth to do. They would get in
Right.
trouble.
Yeah.
They're looking for trouble. They was hanging out on the streets and stuff. There was nothing to do. So when I opened up that gym, I actually took in a lot of teens and stuff and gave out a lot of memberships. My stepson, Shondell, I got him when I was 14, almost 15. And he turned into the youngest Mr. Connecticut in history.
Oh wow.
He won the Teen Connecticut and the Mr. Connecticut in the same show. First person to ever do it.
Wow.
And he just competed 2 weekends ago.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's going for the Mr. USA. So I'll be flying down
wow.
to Texas in December to his last week of prep to help him prepare for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So those are like big clients. I feel like that's like a real pro level kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's wild.
I've been doing
to-
this pretty much my whole life. And props to my cousin Gary. He's Mr. World, Mr. Universe. He's the one that kind of got me into it when I was a teenager. He's seen my potential. He's
Yeah.
a few years older than me.
Yeah.
Took me under his wing and pretty much taught me most of what I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so that's your full time thing is training people and
Pretty much. I also work with people with TBI, traumatic brain injuries.
oh really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I do that on the side part time. So, but mostly training. Yeah.
So what do you do with the people that have the TBI?
Just take care of them. You know, just
Oh.
increase their quality of life, make sure they get along well, and
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I am sorry. I've never had a cricket. I wonder if they can hear that.
yeah, probably.
That cricket is going nonstop. That's crazy.
but, just to bring in a competition, how well Michelle has done. It's like her first show, she won a first place trophy,
Nice.
and then
Oh.
her second.
That was this
show-
weekend, right?
Yeah.
No, that was last summer.
Last
Oh,
June.
last summer.
And then her second show, which was just a few months past that, she won her 2 pro cards in one show, which is almost unheard of. To win a pro card, you guys don't understand. It's really hard. You have to win, like usually an overall in a big show. So you're going against 30, 40 people that want to win. Everybody wants to win.
Right, right,
So
right.
you're that number one person. And it's only in certain shows that they offer pro cards. It has to be a big enough, substantial enough show to be qualified for a pro card. And in that show, it was a big show. It was the Monster Mash, and one of the biggest shows in New England. And not only did she win her pro card in the Open, she also won the Masters, which is almost unheard of. So
Wow.
being that it was her pro debut this past weekend and winning first place in the Open, which is
Yeah.
the hardest category.
Oh, it is okay.
Yeah, the Open is like for the top of the top. So yeah, she did amazing.
And we were both sick. He was sick too. We
Oh,
were both
I was-
sick.
Dead sick. So sick.
And so I apologize wholeheartedly to everyone else that was at that event over this past weekend who might
It was
or
tough.
might not now be sick.
That was a tough couple days.
Yeah.
That was a tough couple days.
But it makes the win that much sweeter, right?
Yeah.
For us.
When the
Yeah,
show's
yeah.
good.
And then they eat solid food again. Woo!
Oh yeah. That's great.
That's awesome. So when you have more like more of these events coming up, so like September, October, November, is it? Are you gonna have like each month be a certain thing? You know, a recurring thing for that. Like so, like August is morning and beginner yoga. Is that like next August too? And then like we're gonna do the same thing for what are you planning for?
Yeah, for the
September,
following
October?
months. So I like to rotate. So every month just have something different for the free community class for people to try. So I either do it that way or if like all of these sponsors like let's say like Brenda's a client of mine. She power yoga is one of her favorite classes, you know.
Okay.
So I
Oh, so she's
yeah,
just
so I
sponsor
I
that.
I
For sure.
so she's sponsoring the power yoga class. So a sponsor could pick what class they want it to be. I can just randomly pick a class just to keep different things rotating. And the sponsored classes can also be held at a sponsor's venue if they want as well. So that's another option. And then with that as well, there can also be a networking event after the sponsorship. So there's all different levels of sponsorship that somebody can do, but really ultimately the lowest sponsorship is just $150 for a local business to sponsor a class that's free for the community. Um,
Maybe we'll sponsor a beer drinking.
yeah, absolutely. We can do it. We can do a
We
bar.
gotta balance it, right?
We can do a bar above the bar, you know, and
Oh, there you
do a
go.
class followed by a beer after. Yeah, yeah. I've done over COVID. I did a lot of I think that's where Jack and I, really bonded when we met is just, our histories and our experience, and how fitness has genuinely like affected our lives and changed our lives. And I always refer to it as my lifeline. And when COVID happened, I was teaching at a lot of local studios. And I remember coming home and being like, oh my gosh, my first thought was like, how's everybody going to work out? So so I threw myself on Facebook Live teaching a fitness class. I had
Yeah.
never done any sort of live online anything. And I just
Yeah.
threw myself on there. And I like cried later that night because I was I was like, oh, I was like horrified. I was like, I can't believe I just did that. That was so embarrassing. And so
I think Kyle does that after.
yeah. After
Oh, cry.
every Monday night.
Absolutely.
so, so I put together a schedule over COVID. So every day at noon, I called it the weekday nooner. There was a different fitness class every day that I taught live online
Nice.
throughout the entire like shutdown of COVID. I would like put my youngest were still babies, so I would like gated off a section of my living room. I like made everyone in my house like be quiet, and I would teach a fitness class every day because I was like, how are people going to get their lifeline? Like, how are
Right,
they going
right,
to do
right.
this? So
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Did you talk about your sup class?
I didn't even talk about stand up paddleboard yoga
Ooh.
and
Okay.
stand up paddleboard. Yeah.
If I can stand on a paddleboard. I'll be-
Yeah, well, I have also stand up paddleboard instruction. So same thing. Like people say the same things to me all the time. Like I'm like they don't want to show up in a yoga class because they don't want to be like the new person in class. And same thing with paddleboard yoga. They're like, I can't stand on a paddleboard. So, so stand up paddleboard instruction. So I actually have a floating studio. So I put together a floating studio. I've gone out to, I did my stand up paddleboard training down in, oh my gosh, what state? What state is that?
Down south somewhere.
Down south. Where did I go? North Carolina. So I went down to North Carolina. I did my stand up paddleboard yoga certification down
Wow.
there. And then I've built a stand-up paddleboard floating studio, so I can go to any local water. Right, well, it doesn't even have to be local, but any water spot. So I'll have that information up soon. I'm still kind of dialing in. Like things kind of got pushed back a little bit with this show we kind of decided to do last minute. Um, so yeah, so for anybody participating, I supply everything, the boards, Coast Guard approved flotation devices. You don't have to know how to, stand up on a board. The boards that I have are yoga specific boards. So it's like being on a dock, it's
Oh,
very, very,
wider.
yeah, it's
Oh, okay.
very, very stable.
They're anchored.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So we go out into the water. And the water is, it's calm water for yoga. We're not going out into the ocean. And then everybody's anchored in. So it's a really, really, relaxing experience. So not only are you getting the benefits of yoga, but you're getting, really nature therapy and the therapeutic of, benefits of that are just, astronomical. It's a whole different experience. And then on top of that, then you just like lay on your board and shavasana at the end of class and floating on the water. And yeah, it's just an experience you can't beat. So
Shavasana. That's when you're like play dead, right?
yeah, it's like meditative sleep almost.
Pretty good.
Yeah. It's kind of like my favorite part of
Yeah,
class.
that'd be my
Like,
favorite.
You can lose
Yeah.
a day if you're tired enough. You're like,
Yeah.
Wake up at 3.
Yeah, I've seen people cry in shavasana. I've seen people fall asleep.
A lot of you, Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like your Monday night.
Yeah. I probably should still go to class though.
Oh, the tears are real.
So yeah, so that's new and upcoming. That's like that I'm super excited about because yeah, it's just a fun sport, just to be
Yeah.
outside and it takes a lot of to be out and moving in the water. It's just again, it's another like joyful activity.
Right. I did paddleboarding in the Keys for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I did okay, but it is a workout to stay up.
Hmm.
It is.
It's like big workout. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. And then
Yeah.
you do yoga while you're on the board.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it kind of you gotta like peel it back and break it down. Like the most simplest poses that you do in studio or on ground are more challenging on a board. So
For
you know,
sure.
yeah, yeah. So it's just like simple things, like widening your stance and again just like being more mindful and in the moment, and
Yeah,
kind
plus
of
the balance, you're going to get more of a core workout and you
Yeah.
get more workout on the nervous system.
Yeah,
'Cause you,
stabilizers.
Yeah.
Crazy,
Yep.
yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
that's
then
really
just
cool.
being out in nature again, it's just like it's just ups the element.
Right. So if it's inclement weather, you do an indoor one? You have a studio for that?
No, it would just be, it'd be just delayed or, so people either, if you're not able to make it to another class, you would get refunded or you could just, choose to go to the next
Gotcha.
class,
Yeah.
along
I wonder if
those
the
lines.
Y would do something with that. Like they have the big pools there. Wonder if that would be. Although
Yeah.
you have
So
to keep them in the center because if they fall.
I always have
Is
this
it like a
vision of
party,
people,
like everybody's
exactly
falling?
what you just said. Like, I always have, because people always say that they're like, "What can you put in a pool?" And I just picture somebody like falling
Hitting
off
the
their board and
side.
hitting their head. But people really don't fall off. I mean, that's like people's, big fear. And not to say that they don't fall off. They do fall off, but not like it's not just people dropping left and right. So, but there are people that will want to show up with their own boards, which.
Yeah, if it's
You
not
know,
a wide yoga board.
Yeah, so sometimes
Kinda
they show up with like boards that aren't, designed for yoga and it's just not the same experience, because they don't have a full mat on them and then, they're slipping and I have boards like that. Like I've been that person, I'm like, no, I got my board. And then I'm like, oh, I wish I had some grip. So and then you're just relying on pure core strength, which is fine.
Sounds interesting though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, even just like, there's the classes and then the instruction or just even just like getting out. So I'll do just instructions. So just going out onto the boards and even just, just touring around an area, and just being out on the board.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you instruct with her or in the classes?
Oh, no.
Or
No, no. I mostly do like personal training. I do private martial arts classes with people and stuff like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Awesome. Did every like I asked her how many practices you did, and she didn't know. But mixed martial arts, you do jujitsu, wrestling,
Yeah. I've done jujitsu, wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai.
Muay Thai.
Mostly.
Okay.
I've also done iron palm kung fu, stuff like that. I actually started to
Oh,
study that
can you
because
iron palm something?
I could. But I started that because it's like I kind of wanted to get into the UFC when it was all going,
Yeah.
and I grew up in rough neighborhoods where I'd been in many many street fights and broke my hand several times. When you punch somebody in the head, it's like punching a bowling ball.
Right, right.
Bones crush, and that was.
I like
happening
how
a
you're
lot.
all agreeing. I've never punched anybody in the head.
Well,
I have. Well, I don't think I have.
that was happening a lot in UFC. In the very beginning because they didn't wear gloves or anything. So I went to a big martial arts seminar one time. There was a guy named Brian Gray who I happened to be watching his demonstration, and he walked up to a 6-inch thick block of concrete and laid his hand on top of it, and in one fell, barely moved his hand. It looked like it barely came off the brick, and the thing just smashed.
Really?
And I was like, wow, where did he develop that power? How was. And then I thought, well, damn, if he could hit something that hard with his hand without breaking it, why wouldn't you want to use that like in the grappling situation where you have somebody pinned down, and instead of breaking your hand,
Yeah.
iron palm them,
Oh wow.
knock them out that way. So
Huh.
I learned iron palm through Brian Gray
Wow.
and got pretty good at it, But
Please don't break my bench.
I was gonna say, if you ever needed someone to test your carpentry skills.
Oh,
we
it'll
don't-
fall apart.
we don't need anyone to do that.
I'm not quite. I mean, I still know the technique and I can still do it, but while I was practicing it, it was one of those things where it was a lot of conditioning, where
Oh,
you
okay.
start off hitting a bag that has hard beans in it, and then it goes from hard beans to pellets, and then it goes to iron pellets, and then you're slapping and hitting in a certain pattern every day, several times a day, to develop that, you know. Yeah. So then your hands kind of turn into weapons, so you can smash something as hard as you can, and it doesn't hurt.
Is that like?
Same things with shin conditioning.
Yeah.
I used to beat my shins when I was doing Muay Thai with a little bat. You know those little slugger bats you'd buy
Yep.
at baseball games?
Yeah.
Well, my coach would take it and he cut a line like an X at the top of it, so it gave just a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would beat my shins with
Really?
that. So you turn your shins into weapons, so you could kick something as hard as you can, and without any damage.
Wow, that's interesting. So my algorithm's kind of wild. There's these guys that like hold on to a table and slap each other.
Yeah.
Is that like something that?
I don't do that stuff.
I know you. I didn't expect you to, but is that like a practice that they could take on and really like hurt somebody?
Iron palm probably could.
Wow.
You know, it's a whip technique is what they use in the iron palm training, and yeah, it's a very 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 powerful technique if you practice it enough. In a certain situation too, like you can do it if you're breaking bricks and stuff like that. Of course, you want to be standing up in a good posture and stuff like that. But it also could be used in short distance, so
Oh.
I don't need much space.
To recoil. Yeah.
I need maybe 3 to 5 inches.
Wow.
So instead of having to come back like this
Yeah.
for a full punch, I could just and devastate somebody without having to really draw back and show them real power.
Interesting. I'm surprised you don't see more of it in like UFC and
Yeah.
martial arts.
It was
and stuff
something
like
that I just saw and I was like, wow, it just kind of clicked.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Huh.
a lot of my students.
We maybe go and see some bricks here later. That sounds super interesting. That's cool. Did you put these in the comments? Everything?
Yep.
Awesome. So this is the
We could put them. We'll put them in when it gets posted again, so people see it.
Workbench coupon code. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Use code Workbench for one free group fitness class or $20 off a one-on-one coaching service, valid through July 31st, 2025. book online at www.ww101.fit or email train@ww101.fit. Cool. Awesome. I love it when people promote stuff like that. See if
Yeah.
they watch the show. And we kind of did it at the end, so we'll see if they watch to the end. Is there anything else you guys would like to add, or anything else we didn't go over?
Not really. Between us both, we're probably some of the most experienced trainers and fitness personnel in the area, for sure. Like I said, I've been doing this pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
Started at 10 years old, and I'm still going.
Yeah, we're still alive. That speaks for itself.
I'm hopefully going to be doing a show coming up in September. I'm probably going to be doing the USA in natural bodybuilding.
So, like, you're gonna
Yeah, I'll
compete?
be in the Grandmasters division.
Okay.
Just,
Is
right.
that the oldest?
It's the oldest. It's the oldest. And this weekend actually inspired me because there was only like one guy in the Masters division, and I would have smashed that guy. But my cousin Gary was like, "Yeah, you should do the USA again. Why not? Go for it." So I'm gonna step on stage one more time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, cool. Good luck to you on that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming and
Thank you.
sharing. Really appreciate it. I hope we fill these classes up. I really do, because that means people are getting healthier.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yep,
awesome.
that's the goal.
Did you tell them about the World Championships? The World Championships.
No, yeah.
Okay.
So,
That's in when? December?
no, November.
November?
Yeah. So I was.
She just qualified for the World Championships, and we're probably going to fly out to California and do that one.
Wow. So that's like another
Yeah, November.
open bikini show?
Yeah.
Same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So how many months is that? I don't even know.
November.
That's like 4.
Yeah, yeah. So I start
Five.
prep. I start prep now. I need another drink.
short break between prep.
Yeah.
Very short break.
Yeah. That's funny.
So, but yeah, I'd love to, have people come out and train with me. Yeah, summer schedule's up there, and yeah.
And would you take on a client to train them to do that as well? Is that like?
Yes, not currently right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
But that
not
is
not
like-
for not. Well, Jack trains.
Would do that.
I-
right.
Yeah, male bodybuilders, and he's taking clients for female bodybuilders. For me, I'm putting together kind of like a full package program. So at some point, that'll get posted, but it's definitely like a different experience as a female bodybuilder. There's so much that goes into it. I think before we went on, like even just talking about the nails, like
Yeah.
every little detail, there's so much that goes into it. So I'm really kind of putting together like a full package. So it's at some point, yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Yep.
Love to
Cool.
hear the futuristic goals and stuff like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. Well, again, thank you. And thank everyone else for watching. The Community Workbench family is in the middle of their Be the One campaign. It was started by the American Legion in efforts to stop veteran suicide. If you know a veteran, call them. Be the one to check in on them. For more details, visit betheone.org. Join us again Monday night at 6, June 30th, when we interview Quiet Corner Garden Club, an affiliate of the Federated Garden Clubs of Connecticut Incorporated and the National Garden Clubs Incorporated. So we'll be hearing all about gardening next week. That'll be pretty cool. As always, buy local, hire local, dine local, volunteer local, and donate local. Have great days.